Hello, this is Alena Nikiticheva and a brief introduction to the anthropology of Islam. This is just my interpretation, so don't believe me and try to read more. But let's get started. For many centuries, studying religion, including Islam, was mostly based on texts. It is still an important approach for the discipline called Islamic studies. And of course, it is valuable and important and requires many specific skills. For example, learning Arabic language. If you try to understand what Islam is, it is essential. Of course, Islamic studies now seem to be much more varied and they include different sources, for example, media sources and specific methods, but still, it is some kind of traditional approach for the study. And many decades ago, there were many questions. Is that the only one way? And social anthropologists, of course, were included in this kind of discussion with their own point of view. So we can mention the middle of the 20th century as a specific period for formation of the anthropology of Islam. Talking about that subdiscipline, we should say that, of course, it is connected to different studies and disciplines within the social studies, and of course we can see many connections with history of religion, philosophy, and sociology, of course. Many schools of social anthropology could be divided into two main approaches we have. The first one, universalists, so those scholars who tried to compare different cultures and to see something universal between them. The main idea was about the evolution of many social structures, religion. The second approach we have is a relativist approach. So seeking for something specific in a local community or culture. So with a specific focus landed more on specific societies. And I would say that that very approach provided by relativists is one of the most important within contemporary studies in the subdiscipline of anthropology of Islam. So historically, we could mention evolutionism, functionalism, structural functionalism, and structuralism, and other schools like Marxism and feminism approaches, and interpretive approach, which is really so important for our anthropology of Islam course. And one of the most dominant school in current anthropology called postmodern anthropology, postmodern approach, with the interpretive approach provided by Clifford Geertz mostly, and his followers too. It means that we should not try to be objective totally, like it was important for example, positivists in the late 19th century. So we should try to take into account our own interpretations. Social anthropology is interesting because of its methodology. And of course, those methods could be used by other scholars, and there is no problem, but still it is something specific. The first method to be mentioned is a participant observation. So the specific fieldwork when a researcher tries to live the life of his participants. So he spends or she spends a lot of time with the people he or she tries to understand and to be a part of the community. Of course, it is one of the most desirable results, but even if it's limited for some reason, it's still essential to conduct participant observation. And the second method is called in-depth interview. So it is a long dialogue with a participant, and this dialogue commonly has many open-ended questions, participant observation, and in-depth interview. So combining those two methods is essential for all social anthropologists. An important question: who was the first author in the Anthropology of Islam? Of course, many people remember Edward Wadi Said with his famous work Orientalism, and of course, this work is essential for people majoring in anthropology of Islam too, because of course this work could be seen as a turn in social knowledge and in post-colonial studies, in studies, cultural studies about so-called East and the so-called West, and in many ways. But still, this work cannot be considered as the first one in the Anthropology of Islam. I would like to mention the approach provided by Benjamin Soares and Filippo Osella. They said that the first work in that field was written by Evans Pritchard, really so famous scholar. And if we say that some student should remember at least 5 names from all the history of social anthropology, so Evans Pritchard would be in that list. He was conducting his fieldwork in North Africa, and after that he published a book, The Sanusi of Kyrenaika. So the book, based on a fieldwork, participant observation, and in-depth interviews from the field in Libya. And the focus of that study is a Sufi order and its political role in the social structure of Libya for this period of time. So this is an important work for us because it was the first time when an anthropologist mostly and specifically focused on Islam. And of course, he provided his own vision because of his theoretical background and approach, but still we should start from this point. We will consider some other topics further. Thank you for your attention.